In this video, we'll be taking a look at 4 NBA games happening on March 18th, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 8 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 4 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Utah Jazz versus Minnesota Timberwolves. The Utah Jazz are rolling into Target Center tonight carrying what might genuinely be the most devastating injury report of any team in the Western Conference right now. This isn't about 1 or 2 guys missing. 3 rotation players are already done for the entire season. Their most reliable rim protector, gone. Their best shot-blocking big, done for the year. Their most experienced starting center, also shelved indefinitely. And on top of all that, their franchise-level forward is sitting in a boot with an ankle issue. Their leading scorer is day-to-day with a leg problem. Their starting point guard is questionable with a knee. And their most exciting young rookie is stuck in concussion protocol. What's left is essentially a roster being assembled from scratch. Anthony Edwards, Minnesota's engine and most electric player, is out tonight with knee inflammation after an MRI, and that matters. Nobody is pretending otherwise. But here's the thing, that reality is already priced in. The market knows. The books know. This line was set with full knowledge of the Edwards situation, and the Timberwolves were still installed as massive favorites. Julius Randle has been a man possessed lately, dropping 32 points in back-to-back outings. Rudy Gobert dominates the paint in any matchup, and against a front line that barely exists on the Utah side tonight, that dominance only compounds. The home crowd at Target Center isn't going to make things any easier on a visiting team already running on fumes. The Jazz defense this season has been historically porous, ranking last in the entire league in points allowed per game. Without the bodies needed to shore things up, generating enough stops against a Minnesota team that doesn't even need their best player in a spot like this is a genuinely difficult ask. Bones Highland came alive last game. Jaden McDaniels is playing with a locked-in edge. The Timberwolves' depth tonight looks like a different class compared to what Utah is piecing together. Minnesota enters at 42-27, and with an implied win probability sitting close to 87%. The gap between these two rosters is hard to argue against. As our first pick for this matchup, the Minnesota Timberwolves to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The instinct when a star player goes down is to think the scoring tightens up and the total crawls under. Honestly, it's a reasonable instinct. But the conditions tonight push back on that harder than you'd expect. Start with Utah's defense, or more accurately, start with the empty space where their defense was supposed to be. With no quality rim protector available and their most versatile shot-blocking big already done for the season, there's nothing guarding the paint on the Jazz defensive end. Minnesota, even without Edwards, is built to attack that kind of weakness. Rudy Gobert turns offensive rebounds into extra possessions. Julius Randle draws fouls, finds his spots, and gets to the line regardless of who's guarding him. There is genuinely no one on Utah's roster tonight who is structurally built to contain any of that. Honestly, here's the part that gets overlooked. Utah can actually score. Despite their record of 20-48, they rank inside the top 10 in the entire NBA in offensive output this season. They move the ball, they find shooters, and Bryce Sensabaugh has been one of the more consistent offensive contributors on that roster over recent weeks. The last time these two teams shared the floor, the Jazz walked away with the win, so this isn't a team that just rolls over, especially when pride is on the line. And then there's the element that almost never gets enough attention. When one team builds a comfortable lead and the game opens up, both benches start getting extended minutes. Bench players don't play controlled, methodical basketball the way starters do. They push pace, they shoot freely, and those late-game minutes have a quiet way of nudging totals right past the number. The conditions tonight, a compromised Jazz defense meeting a motivated Wolves offense on their home floor, suggest a scoreboard that stays busy from tip to final buzzer. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Denver Nuggets versus Memphis Grizzlies. Alright, we're back, and tonight's game is one of those matchups that looks, on the surface, like a total walkover. The records say it, the talent gap says it, and honestly, just about every mainstream narrative around this one says it too. But here's the thing, point spreads don't care about narratives. They don't care about who's supposed to win, who looks better on paper, or which franchise has the bigger superstar. What matters is what actually happens between the lines, and right now, there's a story building underneath the surface of this Denver Nuggets and Memphis Grizzlies matchup that a lot of people are sleeping on. Let's start with Memphis, because if you haven't been following this team closely, you might glance at their 23-44 record and assume this is just a broken roster going through the motions. And sure, there's some truth to that, but you'd be missing a lot of important context. The Grizzlies have been hit by something that can only really be described as a medical catastrophe this season. Ja Morant, the heartbeat of everything Memphis tries to do offensively, is out. His left elbow UCL sprain has kept him sidelined for weeks, and as of early March, the medical staff confirmed he's still experiencing discomfort with no clear return in sight. No Morant means no burst, no pull-up threat, no one to force defenses into scrambling mode. Everything Memphis wants to run offensively gets harder without him, and that ripple effect touches every part of their game. It doesn't stop there either. Zach Edey, who was brought in to be a physical, imposing presence in the paint this year, is done for the season with an ankle injury. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, acquired from Orlando in that big Desmond Bane trade last summer, went under the knife for a finger issue in February and won't play another minute this year. Scottie Pippen Jr. had a sesamoidectomy on his right big toe in mid-March and is also finished for the season. Brandon Clark is nursing a calf injury and is still not cleared. And perhaps the biggest storyline of all, Jaren Jackson Jr., who signed that massive contract extension and was supposed to be the anchor of this franchise alongside Morant, was traded to the Utah Jazz on February 3rd. He is not coming back. What Memphis got in return from Utah, guys like Walter Clayton Jr., Taylor Hendricks, George Niang, and Kyle Anderson, are still figuring out how to play together. They're learning a new system under first-year head coach Tuomas Isalo, who is still earning his footing in this league. On paper, this group is thin, banged up, and rebuilding on the fly. But here's what you can't overlook, they're at home. They're playing in front of their crowd at FedEx Forum, and young, hungry players with something to prove in a loud building have a funny way of showing up when nobody expects them to. Now let's talk about Denver, because this is where the real wrinkle lives. The Nuggets just played tonight. They hosted the Philadelphia 76ers at home in Denver and rolled to a comfortable victory, covering a lot of ground against a short-handed Philly squad. And now they have to fly to Memphis, check into a hotel, and do it all again. That's a back-to-back road situation, and for a Denver roster carrying real mileage on its key veterans, that matters more than most people are giving it credit for. Nikola Jokic is not the same player he was before that knee injury earlier this season. The evidence has been piling up since his return in late January. His efficiency inside the arc has dropped noticeably, his turnovers have crept up, and some of those signature reads that made him look like a magician have been slightly off. A piece from The Ringer in early March laid this out in uncomfortable detail, noting that Denver has gone 6-8 since Jokic's return, and that his shooting percentages in his most reliable zones have fallen well below where they were pre-injury. That is not a hot team. That is a team managing its stars' bodies while trying to stay afloat in a tough Western Conference race. Denver currently sits at 42-27, which sounds great, but a 5-5 stretch over their last 10 is not the form of a team that's locked in and rolling. Peyton Watson is still out with a hamstring issue, which quietly thins the depth on the wings. Aaron Gordon has made his way back from his own hamstring injury, which is a positive, but asking him to run full speed on the second leg of a back-to-back after tonight's game is its own kind of gamble. The Nuggets, being the professionals they are, will still compete. But competing and covering a massive number are two very different things. Historically, heavy road favorites on the second night of a back-to-back, especially against a home team with literally nothing to lose and everything to fight for, have a way of doing just enough to win while coming up short of covering. Memphis's young pieces feed off home energy, and their defense has been one of the few things that hasn't completely fallen apart this season. And with Jokic operating at something less than peak efficiency and the whole Denver rotation a little worn down from tonight, this is exactly the kind of game where the underdog hangs around, makes it uncomfortable, and lets the clock do the rest. As our first pick for this matchup, the Memphis Grizzlies to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Shifting over to the point side of this matchup, the argument practically writes itself once you start stacking up the details. Start with Denver's situation. They just played a full game tonight. Jokic logged real minutes, Jamal Murray logged real minutes, Gordon logged real minutes. Those are not young legs that recover overnight. And we already know Jokic hasn't been the unstoppable scoring force he was before his knee issue. When his efficiency dips, the entire Nuggets offensive system slows down with it because everything Denver does, every pick and roll, every drive and kick, every post-up sequence, runs through him. If he's not converting at his normal clip, the points just don't add up the way bettors expect. Add tired legs to declining shot quality, and Denver's pace, which leans methodical even on good nights, becomes even more deliberate. On the Memphis side, the offensive limitations are just as real, just for different reasons. Without Morant, there's no one to ignite the transition game, no one to create off the bounce in isolation, no one to generate the kind of chaos that produces easy points in bunches. Clayton Jr., Hendricks, Niang, Anderson, these are role players and developmental pieces, not guys who are going to go on 15-point runs and blow the doors off a defense. Aldama is dealing with a knee issue and is listed as day-to-day. G.G. Jackson is day-to-day with a foot problem. Jalen Wells has been dealing with a shoulder injury. The depth Memphis would normally lean on to generate secondary scoring just isn't there in a consistent way right now. What you end up with here is a slow, grinding, physical game. Memphis will try to keep it close defensively, turn it into a half-court battle, and make Denver work for every possession. Denver will control the ball, run its sets deliberately, and try to manage the game without putting too much pressure on a tired core group. Neither of these teams is looking to run up the score. Neither of them is going to shoot themselves into an offensive explosion. The conditions on both sides, fatigue, injury, roster limitations, and a first-year coaching staff trying to instill structure all point in the same direction. As our second pick for this matchup, the under the projected total is our full game total pick. Atlanta Hawks versus Dallas Mavericks. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening in Atlanta right now, because it is genuinely one of the most underappreciated storylines the NBA has going at this moment. 10 straight wins. The Atlanta Hawks have been nothing short of a runaway freight train in the Eastern Conference, and what makes this streak so compelling isn't just the wins themselves, it's how they've been doing it. The closest anyone has come to them during this entire run is 9 points. 9. That's the narrowest escape they've had across 10 straight victories, and every opponent has left the court looking like they were in a different sport. Now they walk into American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas, a building that has become something close to a house of horrors for the home team, to face a Mavericks squad that is, statistically and spiritually, in shambles. Dallas has lost 9 straight on their own floor. Let that marinate. They can't win at home, and the Hawks are the hottest team on the planet right now. The injury situation in Dallas tells an almost tragic story. Kyrie Irving has been gone all season with a torn ACL, no return timeline in sight. Anthony Davis is no longer even on this team after being shipped out in a blockbuster trade to Washington. Derek Lively II had his season ended by foot surgery before things even got going. What's left is a young, undermanned roster leaning heavily on rookie Cooper Flagg to carry an offense that ranks 24th in the entire league. And that offense just got torched by New Orleans, 129-111 in their last outing. Brandon Williams, one of their more reliable guard contributors, enters tonight listed as doubtful with a concussion. Meanwhile, the Hawks just came off an absolute masterclass of a performance against Orlando. Nickeil Alexander-Walker went career high. Jalen Johnson notched back-to-back triple-doubles. And if that wasn't enough, Atlanta already beat this exact Dallas team by 12 points just 8 days ago, the same Mavericks squad in a fresher state. Here's the thing, a team on fire, riding a win streak they haven't touched since 2015, with key contributors firing on all cylinders, stepping into a building where the home team simply cannot buy a win. The narrative writes itself. As our first pick for this matchup, the Atlanta Hawks to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Now, Dallas has been getting under totals at an almost eerily consistent rate. The under has cashed in 9 of their last 11 games, 8 of their last 10 in March specifically, and a stunning 10 out of 11 against Southeast Division opponents, which is exactly what Atlanta is. Dallas simply doesn't have the offensive firepower to light up a scoreboard consistently. Without Kyrie Irving running pick and roll or Anthony Davis commanding the paint for easy buckets, both of those weapons completely gone from the equation, there's just no reliable engine to push scoring totals into high territory. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Atlanta's side of the ledger tells a very similar story. The Hawks have been going under in 9 of their last 13 games and in 5 of their last 6 road games against Southwest Division opponents. These aren't two teams built to trade haymakers for 3 hours. The Hawks grind, they defend when they need to, and they close things out efficiently without necessarily exploding past 130. Honestly, you don't even need to look far for proof. The last time these two teams shared a floor, just 8 days ago, Atlanta won 124-112, a combined total of 236. On a night where the Hawks were dominant and Dallas was competitive, it still stayed under. When you cross-reference Dallas's tendency to force turnovers at a decent clip and not completely abandon defensive possessions, with Atlanta's preference for controlling pace rather than sprinting through them, you get a recipe for a game that settles neatly in the 200s and 30s. Two teams, two very different problems offensively, but both pointing toward the same quiet, unassuming outcome. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Los Angeles Lakers versus Houston Rockets. Think about this less like a basketball game and more like a prize fight where the challenger just got knocked down in round 1 and is walking back to the center of the ring with something to prove. Houston dropped a 100-92 decision to the Los Angeles Lakers just 2 nights ago on their own home floor. And the single biggest reason it happened had nothing to do with Luka Doncic going off, nothing to do with LeBron James just being LeBron James. It had everything to do with the fact that Houston's offensive engine was parked in the garage with a bad back. Without their all-star center Alperen Şengün, the entire Rockets' offensive ecosystem broke down. Kevin Durant himself explained it better than any analyst could after the game, saying it felt like 1-on-5 out there, like double teams were materializing before he even crossed half-court, like the whole process was just too slow and stagnant. That's what happens when you take the gravity away from a 2-man operation. Everything collapses around the guy left standing. Here's the thing though. Şengün has been officially cleared from the injury report for Wednesday's game. He is back. The back issue that kept him out of the last 2 contests is no longer a concern, and that changes everything about what this Houston offense looks like. Suddenly Durant doesn't have to carry the entire load. Suddenly the drive and kick game opens back up. Suddenly Houston's interior creation, the playmaking, the pick and roll reads, the second chance opportunities, all of it gets restored. This is also the Los Angeles Lakers' second game in 3 days on the road, which means their legs aren't exactly fresh either. And let's not forget what this game means at the standings level. Houston just dropped Game 1 of this series, which means the Lakers now hold the season series lead. A Rockets win tonight not only stops the bleeding, it ties the season series and keeps the tiebreaker alive in a West race where these two teams are separated by just a handful of games in the hunt for that crucial 3rd seed. Rockets head coach Ime Udoka has had 48 hours to adjust his game plan. His locker room is fueled by the embarrassment of Monday night. The home crowd at Toyota Center is going to be electric. Houston ranks 3rd in the entire NBA in defensive rating this season. When this team is locked in at home with something to prove, they are genuinely dangerous. As our first pick for this matchup, the Houston Rockets to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Forget about individual stars for a second and zoom all the way out. What we're looking at here is two teams whose identities were practically built for low-scoring, grinded-out basketball, colliding on the second half of a back-to-back. The first time these teams played in this very building just 2 nights ago, the final score was 100-92, a combined 192 points on the board. That was without Şengün, who many would expect to open the floor and create more offensive flow. Honestly, Şengün coming back doesn't necessarily mean this game explodes into a shootout. What Şengün actually does is make Houston's defense better because his presence frees up the rotation, relieves pressure on guys who were shoved into roles they weren't built for, and gives Udoka back the lineup combinations that made Houston the 3rd stingiest defense in the entire league this year. The Los Angeles Lakers are playing their second road game in 3 nights during a demanding stretch of the schedule. Road fatigue is real in late March. Legs get heavy, shot selection suffers, transition opportunities dry up. The Lakers have been running on adrenaline during a 6-game winning streak, but sustaining that kind of offensive output night after night on the road is asking a lot of any team. Houston has leaned into their defensive identity all season long. They're the #1 rebounding team in the entire NBA, not even close, cleaning the glass at a rate that limits opponents' second chances and generates long defensive stops. When a team that dominant on the boards is operating at home, in a revenge game setting, with their full rotation back, the likelihood of things getting sloppy and points piling up gets a whole lot lower. Everything about this game's setup points to two teams digging in, throwing haymakers, playing tough interior basketball, and letting defense dictate the heartbeat of the game. You just don't get a high-scoring affair when the hosting team is playing with a chip on their shoulder and rolling out the NBA's elite defensive unit at full strength. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.